I'd like to call the Village of North Fond du Lac Village Board of Trustees meeting to order Monday, April 5th. Due to state of emergency related to COVID-19, the village will have limited seating at the village board meeting. In addition to the board meeting being available on cable channel 980, you're also able to dial in and listen or speak through the phone. If you would like to call in, please dial 920-322-6120 between 5:45 and 5:55 on the day of the meeting. Audience members are requested to sign in the sheet provided at the registration table. Citizens wishing to be heard on topics not listed on the agenda may speak under item C. Citizens may be given an opportunity to speak during discussion of items listed on the agenda and are allowed 3 minutes for comments. Disruptive discussion or profanity will not be allowed. Roll call of officers.
Duffy.
Here.
Horn.
Here.
Streeter.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Will.
Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements. Number one, Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week, April 12th through the 16th of this year, no siren test.
I can just briefly, I did provide some backup there. I don't see you want to see anything about this, but they are not doing the siren test anymore, and there's some frequently asked questions as to why, and they still are testing them weekly. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that they're not doing the testing is because everybody, has a smartphone now, and they have different apps that pull that data that the siren test goes off, and then it alarms their phone, and it started, alerting people when there actually wasn't a tornado coming. So that's why they are stopping the testing in that aspect.
Chuck?
Do those apps do the weekend test to them, are you saying?
No, the way, because since it's a statewide, and it may in certain areas, alert their phones, I'm not sure. We don't have the issue necessarily in Fond du Lac County, but elsewhere, they're
I see.
obviously having an issue with that.
John?
Seeing this is going away, I take it then the sirens are going away, then there will be no requirement to have tornado sirens?
No, there still is, yeah, we still utilize them. They actually just switched our programming, so it's a Polygon instead of the regular alerting system, so we still have testing every Saturday. So the pagers still go off every Saturday at noon, and that'll continue.
But I'm saying the sirens, what would be the need for it, because that was the purpose of the sirens, and there was always a case where you put money in the budget and replace them, because the sirens, if the sirens are not gonna be utilized during the process any longer, or is it just during
They're
this
utilized
testing?
during the process. They just, this April tornado siren test that they normally do, they are not sounding the sirens for that.
Okay.
They're recommending you observe it and do your, at 1 o'clock and 6 PM, but they're not actually sounding the sirens for the
That's-
test only.
For the test only?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Residents, business, and staff. I'm
Mike, sorry, I had one more announcement I forgot to put on here. I just wanted to remind everyone that April 13th, next Tuesday, will be at 6 PM is our joint plan commission village board meeting to discuss kind of the next steps in the comprehensive plan, which involve economic development and kind of a workshop type setting. We do have one other item on the agenda first, so that maybe take a few minutes as a special use, I believe it is. But we will get information out to the board and plan commission, hopefully by Wednesday of this week for review, if not Thursday afternoon. So Thursday or Friday, I'm sorry. I meant Thursday or Friday, not Wednesday or Thursday. Hopefully by Thursday, if not Friday, for next Tuesday's meeting.
What time is voting tomorrow, Nick?
Oh, yes, voting is 7 AM to 8 PM at the community center, 280 Garfield Street.
All righty. Any other announcements?
No.
All righty. Moving down to President's Business and Staff Reports, Library. Heather?
Thank you. We will be doing our first in-person story time on Friday. So we have a Sunshine and Stories plan happening the next few months in front of the library, or if the weather isn't good, the group hopefully will be small enough, we'll just bring them inside the building and conduct it there. I'll be bringing a lot of some ideas for programming to my board next week, Wednesday, when we meet, and hopefully getting approval for some things coming for the library programs. We also have done one in-person book club, which was in March, and now we have one coming up in April on the 17th, on that Saturday at 9 a.m. And this is our book, Rules for Visiting. And people can join via Zoom, but if they could give me, contact me on Friday that they'd like to join on Saturday, I can get them the link and get them set up. But I have people spaced around the room to do that. And I still have tax forms, and I think there was an extension, so we're going to keep those out longer this year. So we should be able to get you whatever you need for that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Administrator Nick?
I guess to reiterate, Pete and I had a conference call last week with East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. They're the ones leading the charge for the comprehensive plan update about the April 13th meeting, and kind of came up with a game plan as to how to focus that discussion. So you'll see that when you get the information. I did attend a Destination Lake Winnebago Region meeting on Thursday of last week. Those are still held remotely through Zoom. Excuse me. Also, last week was the last week. It's old news now, but to absentee vote, we were open Friday till 5 p.m. to do that. As mentioned, voting is tomorrow at the community center from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Also, we continue to, and there's not a lot of information out there at this point on the stimulus, the second round of stimulus money for the village. We know the amount. We have a pretty good idea what the amount will be for the village. We don't really have any real good direction as to how we can spend that or what it's for. So we continue to look at, League of Wisconsin Municipalities is a great asset for that type of stuff. So we're just keep leaning on them for information. Also, we continue, as you recall or may remember, we've got a few ordinances kind of hanging out there that we're working on. So we continue to do research on those and pull together a lot of other community information. And some of them, end up, specifically the chicken one, ends up kind of going into a lot of different chapters of our ordinance. So it just takes a lot to pull it all together. So not just getting that information at least to present to the board at some point here in the future. So that's all I have for Administrator.
All right, thanks, Nick. Police Department, Darren?
Thank you. I'd mentioned in my weekly report, actually a week ago, because we haven't met, that we had 2 vehicles that were stolen from Badger State Auto Auction. We continue to work on that case. One of the vehicles was recovered 2 days ago down in Milwaukee. Unfortunately, it was involved in a hit and run accident, so a lot of damage to the vehicle, but we're going to have an officer be going down there to process the vehicle, hopefully try to come up with some evidence that will lead us to who the suspects were in the thefts, so that we can get arrests made and get that one closed out. We are still waiting for the new squad car. Unfortunately, just like everybody else who's ordered anything recently, the installer's having a problem getting parts in a timely manner. So we're just waiting for equipment so that the install can be finished, and we can hopefully get that car back soon. We've also started taking in our existing fleet to Holiday Ford. Several of the cars have recall repairs on them. Problem with the rear suspension steering. So we're getting that taken care of. Again, it's under warranty, so no cost to us. But getting those things wrapped up here in the next week or so. And as far as hiring, we're still accepting applications through this Friday for the patrol position. And then we'll start start testing shortly thereafter. And I made a conditional offer to one of the candidates for an internal candidate for sergeant. That officer will be going to complete an assignment suitability exam next week. So hopefully we can move forward here and continue to make progress. That's all I have.
Thanks, Darren. Fire EMS, Jake?
Thank you. I handed out the incidents from March. As you can see, we were pretty busy the entire month with fire and EMS. In my weekly report, I discussed posting the engine on Wisconsin Surplus. That auction closes April 14th. That engine right now is at $5,000. That's the highest bid currently. So we'll see what the highest bid ends at. Usually the last 3-4 days is when we see that climb significantly. And I also put in my weekly report about the paid on call positions that we have open. I received a significant amount of applicants, so we went and looked through them, discussed or had interviews with 4 of them, and are looking to move forward with 4 that are in the area, and 2 of which are ready to go right away. They have certifications and will be big assets to the department. And that is all I have.
I just have a quick question on the
Mike?
engine you have on surplus.
Yep.
Is there a minimum that they have to reach before we have to sell it?
No, not that we have to sell it. Once we get the highest bid, we'll be able to make a determination if we want to sell it or not.
We have that right to, if
Correct,
we
yep.
don't think it's
Yeah,
enough?
it just
Okay.
isn't sold as whatever the bid is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right. Anything for Public Works, Nick?
Yes, I do. Crews continue to work on getting the parks already, and fortunately this year we've had a little bit of a jump start with the weather. Most years we're probably worrying about freezing pipes at night this time of the year, but this year has been a little bit different that way. If you hadn't noticed when you walked up to the front of the building last week, I had the Public Works crew kind of redo the front entry here. We used to have red mulch out there, and every time it rained, the way this building is built, all the water runs off and washed it out on the sidewalk. So we had some bushes that were old taken out, along with new stone put in. Fortunately, that stone and landscape fabric was purchased many, many, many years ago for our stormwater pond in the business park that never got utilized. So we've been using it. If you see it around the village, it's used about everywhere we do any landscaping because we have a pile of it and it's free. So I think it looks great, and they did a great job out front, so it just gives it a little bit of a new look out there. So that looks good. Ohio Street Stormwater Lift Station, like we call it the Ohio Street, even though we don't really have an Ohio Street, it's a right-of-way. Down by the village garage, the detention pond that's down there, the lift station, that pump is out for service. We have 2 pumps in there. One, they're large pumps. They both pump about 12,000 gallons per minute. One of them is out for service right now, so we took because it's out for service, the pit was due for cleaning anyways, so we took advantage of that, pumped the pit down last week, and had a contractor come in and completely clean that pit out. It's like 26 feet deep underneath that lift station. Found a whole bunch of stuff down there that, eventually got somewhere along the lines, ended up down the storm sewer, and gets in the bottom, and they clean it all out, and there's also a bunch of sediment and sand in the bottom, so that's all cleaned out. Hopefully that pump is back in service here by the first or second week of May. Best Shot Avenue started today, the second phase of that. They have a very aggressive schedule on that project. They're hoping to be done completely in 5 weeks, which includes curb and gutter, sidewalk, driveways, landscaping, asphalt, everything. So I think it's their first job of the year, so they have all hands on deck, so to speak. So they already had all of the sidewalks ripped out on the west side by 2 o'clock today. I was down there, the old sidewalk. So that one should go relatively quickly. Hopefully the weather cooperates throughout that process. And that's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Nick. All right, moving down to consent agenda. Approve the minutes of the following village board meeting from March 15th, and approve invoices and authorize checks to be drawn on the respective funds as indicated. So this is for the checks dated 3/29. General fund, $37,653.61. Library fund, $653.75. EMS fund, $2,061.10. Capital projects, $34,237.92. Water department, $84,106.97. Wastewater department, $56,401.15. Stormwater fund, $73.29. Community Development Authority TIF, $128.25, for a grand total of $215,316.04. And this is for this week's meeting. General fund, $125,721.21. EMS fund, $2,978.69. Capital projects, $39,760.56. Water department, $14,264.96. Wastewater department, $822.66. Stormwater fund, $411.36, for a grand total of $183,959.44. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
I got a second?
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion by Will, second by Price to approve the consent agenda as read. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Administrative, number 1, discussion and possible action on payment service network contract for online and credit card payments.
All right, I have a write-up in there, but just to summarize that a little bit. Last year, when COVID started, the PSC required us for water utility to waive credit card fees because of the challenge, obviously, it was to pay in person for certain things. So we started doing that last year. We decided as the village board, to waive fees for everything, including, so basically the things that are paid for here through credit card are utility bills, so it's water, wastewater, and stormwater, and then building permits. That's a real popular item that people ask if they can get paid for. So that's what we're allowed to be paid for through credit card. Along with Payment Service Network, PSN, is also our sort of our third-party vendor that takes care of all of our water, our utility payments online, through the phone, through the checking accounts, that type of thing. So if you go onto our website and pay my water bill, it takes you to the PSN website to do it electronically. While looking through this and waiving those fees through the last year, internally, along with, I think, through village board discussion, we've talked about, maybe possibly keeping these fees waived forever. And, it is a kind of a modern thing now to do that, because it's really the more probably modern way to pay. A lot of people are paying through online payments, credit cards, and checking accounts, just linked. So the charges through PSN are different based on whether we pass it on to the user or whether we agree to take on all those charges. There's 2 contracts that we're able to do with them. If we decide that we will pay all the fees, the contract then is reduced, and I've provided both of those. But before we get into that, I just kind of wanted to show you the numbers of these fees. That's the spreadsheet looking page, the second part of it. It says PSN monthly fees on top. So if you kind of ignore the whole right side that says general fund, and we just look at those first 2 columns, those first 2 columns are just the utility payments that were made. And if you look through 2019, you can see it was, up $200 to $300 to $400 a month that those were the fees that were being paid. That's not necessarily meaning how much we collected. Those are just the fees. So that's 2.75% basically. If you look at 2020, you'll notice that obviously in March, April, and May, and June, you just start seeing this huge increase. And that's, when we allowed no fees, along with COVID starting and our offices being somewhat closed. So as you see in June, July, August, September, and if you see those June and September months, those are the quarterly bills. That's why there's so much more. So we have part of our customer base is billed monthly, part of our customer base is billed quarterly. So that's why you see those large months, and then December you see was our highest month of $1,900 in fees. All in all, we paid about $10,000, $290 last year for user fees for utilities only. And if you look at the building permit, the rest of that on the right, then the rest of that general fund, building, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, doesn't amount to much, $230. And that's well utilized, and I think well appreciated by the customers we have for that. So in that case, that's a pretty small dollar amount for what we're doing there in revenue. So if you approximately, with the math, and we have some reports, it's just hard to pull the numbers out. We've collected just over $1 million last year through PSN. So this $10,000 of fees was approximately equated to $1 million in revenue coming in.
So, you said it's 2.75.
Okay, yeah, I knew you were going to ask that, yeah. So that's for credit card fees. There's also checking, those are cheaper fees. So all in all, we collected about $1 million through PSN. So the fees we paid were about $10,290. Moving forward, there's a different contract, and I provided those, and it's a little bit complicated. The one it did say current on top, but half of it got cut off. That's our current one. And if you want to look at the 2 next to each other, the current one on the left, or I'll say it's on my left, if you look about right in the middle of the page where it says there's transaction fees, and below that it says e-checking and savings payments. I'm going to skip over that section, but if you go down to the second kind of large checkbox where it says credit card payments, and it says online mobile 2.75%, automated phone 2.75%, live PSN rep 2.75%. Is everybody seeing that? Okay, if you look at the new contract and that same section, and you look at credit card payments, it says online mobile field, it's 0.85% plus 60 cents, okay? So if you do the math on that, about a $60 payment is where you kind of break even. Well, we know our average payment is about 100 or higher. Most of our utility bills are, you know, the quarterlies are $300, or 100 is a pretty small utility bill for most part. So with running all these numbers, and it's not exact, you can't come up with an exact number because we don't have all the exact amounts that are charged, but we feel that it's probably gonna be a minimum of about 30% savings. So this $10,000 would most likely be closer to $7,000. We also are, as staff, are pretty strongly in agreement that this is the cost of doing business nowadays, and I think it's a disservice to charge credit card fees to people, because that's usually how people are paying with most things now. So our recommendation is to move forward with this new contract, and by doing that, we're saying we are going to continue to waive the credit card fees for these payments, and we will absorb them, and by doing that, they are offering us a lower rate. I think the reason they do that as a company is because they probably realize that they'll probably get more payments in that way. So another thought, if our average payment is $100 and we took in $10,000 through PSN last year, that's that's 1,000 payments, 1,000 pieces of mail that we didn't have to process here, we didn't have to deal with, and that we don't touch these. That stuff that goes through PSN, we don't touch. It's on goes into our accounting software, and it's done. So when you think about somebody, I mean, I've been here for 20 years. I can remember the stacks of mail, and Mike probably knows when we used to get quarterly payments in the mail. I mean, we would get stacks and stacks of mail, and somebody'd have to sit there and open them all and enter them all. That saves a lot of staff time too. So it's efficiencies built in too. So I guess that's the summary of it all. If anybody has any questions or comments, I guess.
Yeah.
Are they increasing the fees for the check part of it too?
So there's some fees that, I don't know if the check part of it.
Like I mean, it says online mobile field, automated phone, text, and live. Do we have all
So,
of those?
yeah, so the live PSN rep, so that's one thing. So they mentioned that, we asked that question, why is that increasing so significantly? It's $3.05 plus 0.85 cents. They have because of COVID, they had to hire so many people that they ended up having to charge us a lot more, because a lot more people are calling, so they had to hire a lot of people. So they're redoing all of their contracts. If we don't do this contract would be redone. In this contract, it's basically saying, this contract says that at any time, for certain things, they can increase charges. That's one of them.
Correct.
So no matter if we go through with this or not, that part is going to go up.
Do we offer that though? Does the village offer
Yes.
live?
The live, that's if you
Yeah.
call PSN and
Sure.
talk to somebody and they process your payment, yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's something we have to offer?
Yes, because usually it's the people that are having issues
Mhm.
that need a live person to help them walk through it.
Okay.
I would say that that's not very common.
Okay. I have another question. So I'm just gonna think, so if a person pays by check, or not check, the automatic withdrawal, that's 50 cents, right? And then if they pay.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we're having people move from the bank withdrawal to a credit card, it's 10 cents plus 0.85%.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
obviously the cheapest route for us is when people link their checking account, that is, I mean, but I don't foresee people changing that just because we offer free fees on credit cards. We offer that now, so to speak. But we can't control that, so to speak. But yes, that is the best bargain, I would say, for the villages if they're doing that through their e-checking.
I guess, do you think that, the current structure of charging them encourages them to use the e-checking, which is free, and, like.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
this-
we push that, I mean, we do
Right.
now. I also don't, I mean, by charging them a fee for the credit cards, I still think it's the cost of doing business,
Do
in my
you
opinion.
know how much we got paid through this PSM in 2019?
Yeah, it's right there on your sheet.
Not how
Oh,
much we paid them, but how much
I'm
we
sorry.
collected?
I mean, if you do the math and just kind of average it out, I would say
Sure.
around $360,000.
But we're not seeing people switching from the credit, or the checking account to the credit card? People are
No,
just
I would
signing
say
up
we're
for
not
the
seeing
credit
that.
card?
People that have it set up with their checking accounts, and that's how a lot of people do it.
Uh-huh.
But I think that maybe some new customers, we have a fair amount of people that come into the office too and pay by credit card.
Oh.
That is still through this service,
Okay.
so that's how we have to set it up.
And then I noticed in the meeting notes or whatever or the weekly notes that they're gonna do Venmo potentially.
Venmo and PayPal, yep.
Is that, is there a fee to that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Just because my thought is we would wanna, I guess, if Venmo is, I guess it's a new technology, so maybe
Yeah.
people wouldn't be as willing to use Venmo, but if it's free, I mean, we would
We don't-
rather people use it than using a credit card.
I think it was free, but Chris would know that answer, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
I can check into that.
Anything else, Ann?
no,
All
I'm
right,
good.
John?
That was one of mine, is wondering with the change in the new venue, I mean, obviously, if we can save money by them doing that, better off for us. My question is the pass-through cost. I'm looking at it's a percentage, and if people go through it, what does that actually mean? It's a pass-through, they said it's a percentage of what they're doing. What is that
So-
percentage? How much is that?
Yeah, so the pass-through, what they told us is it depends on the credit card company. And it's anywhere from 20 cents to, at the upper end, 90 cents. So when I did the math for you earlier, I didn't do the math for you, I made the comment that at about $60 is a wash compared to the new and the old contract. We use the higher end of that pass-through, I think 95 cents is the higher end of that. So knowing that a $60 payment, worst-case scenario, a $60 payment is about the break-even point. Anything above $60 payment through this, in the worst-case scenario, is a savings.
It's a savings,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Savings versus what?
A savings for if we're paying 2.75% versus what we're paying now. So a savings in the sense if the village is paying the fees for both.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, good point, right? Because if we're not paying the fees, it's just not a
Right,
savings.
yeah.
John, anything else? Mike?
John asked a question I did about the past, so I want to understand a little bit better. One other thing, that money that we absorbed for the charge cards fees during the COVID, are we gonna try to get that recovered by some of that COVID money?
If it's a possibility, we will. It's a good question.
Yep.
There's a lot of different avenues we look at. That's not one I've thought of, but that's a good thought.
Yeah, we could maybe
Yep.
one time cover that.
Make a note.
I had another question too. Another question. I forgot it. Can't think of it. Okay, thank you. I know what it was. I think, I kinda agree with Ann that we try to need to steer them to automatic withdraw from your checking. And I think by doing this, we're probably encouraging to automatic withdraw from your checking account. You might see a spike going forward, more people using this service, you know, because a lot of times charge cards have some kind of cash back on when you use them, so it's more of an incentive to charge it instead of going through your bank account, so.
All right. Any other questions on this item? What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to accept the contract where we absorb the credit card charges.
You got a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion by Horning, second by Duffy to approve the payment service network contract for online and credit card payments, where we absorb the credit card charges. Is there any other questions or comments? Oh, John, sorry.
At what point with this, we're starting something new, that there'll be a reevaluation process if that starts to spike, and we look at that, what are the odds of the contract, say, whoa, wait a minute, that's not what we bargained for, or it becomes more than what you anticipate it costing us. What is that
Yeah.
process, if any?
If any, I think is the answer to that, and if it gets really high, which when I say that, I'm thinking in my mind here a little bit, we've got about 2.8 million total of utility revenue, right? So we already took in $1 million this way, so it can only really double, so to speak. Does that make sense? So, is $20,000 a year for not having to do any payments internally worth it? In my opinion, probably. But if it gets to be, maybe we review it and just, at least I'll keep the board updated on an annual basis of where we were. Does that work? I thought about that process too, but really at this point, we're kind of saying, from this point forward, we're gonna start waiving those fees for good. We were required to until April 15th, but we're kind of saying at this point, we're gonna continue to do that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Oh, Mike?
John asked the same question I was gonna say, that we should review it in a year, but I would almost hope we should I guess, ask Nick to put it on your list that it'll come back to the board.
Yeah, and I will.
Come back, and let's look at it again and see if it still makes sense a year from now.
And this will be about the time, because by the time we get the reports from last year, this will be about the time. And I don't wanna say that we can't change it. We can always change this contract. It's just that we would be going backwards and saying, yes, we're charging these fees again. So,
And on
yep.
the
I
form,
would-
not charging it, but I just don't
Yep.
want it to become overwhelming for us and what
Nope.
cost is that. And evaluating any change or something, I think is important to do and look at. And the idea is, this contract and take it is then a year and it's re-upped each year?
Yep.
Annually then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, anything else?
Again, I would like it somehow stated as it isn't forever. It's gonna be something that we're gonna look at for a year and then reevaluate in a year from now. Do you follow what I'm saying? Nick,
Are you
say it.
amending then the motion then? or-
What's the motion say here?
Well, we're just talking about a contract right
Yeah.
now.
Just
I
a
think-
contract?
Yeah, we're
is
just,
what-
I
yeah,
think
we
if
can
we're
just
gonna
direct
talk
Nick.
about reviewing it again, I think that's probably a separate.
Okay,
I would
that
think
may
it'd
be a
be
separate thing, but I just wanna make sure
yes,
that
yeah.
there was talk about this is the way it's gonna be and that's going forward, but,
If
I'll
we
put
could
it in the
reflect-
minutes, Mike,
There you go.
and I got it on my note here. I'll put it on the agenda for next April.
okay, it's not a forever thing, it's just, okay, all right, thanks.
Anybody have anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
I don't know, do I say no? I guess I would just say that I'm not for it, because this is an lead people to do something that is gonna cost us more money and that, I think it was helpful for the village residents to know that it costs them more and that there's an option that is cheaper, so I guess I would just vote no.
Okay. All right. Moving down to resolutions. Discussion and possible action on Resolution 5-2021. A resolution proclaiming April as Alcohol Awareness Month in the Village of North Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. You want me to read this in to the record?
Yes, please.
Resolution 5-2021, resolution proclaiming the month of April 2021 as Alcohol Awareness Month in the Village of North Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Whereas alcohol use by young people is dangerous, not only because of the risks associated with acute impairment, but also because of the grave threat to their long-term development and overall safety and well-being. And whereas Wisconsin has the second highest rate of binge drinking nationally. And whereas early exposure to alcohol can affect individuals once they become adults by increasing their chances of habitual drinking or becoming addicted to alcohol. And whereas adults have the responsibility to our youth to provide them with alternative opportunities by creating alcohol-free activities. And whereas drug-free communities of Fond du Lac County since 2009 through our continued efforts in the community, along with key community stakeholders, have seen a 57% reduction in youth 30-day use of alcohol and a 65% reduction in youth reporting binge drinking. And now therefore be it resolved that the Village of North Fond du Lac not only discourages the use of alcohol by those below the legal age of consumption, but also exhorts all residents of the Village of North Fond du Lac to refuse to provide alcoholic beverages to underage youth, and pledges to support police department efforts to identify this illegal and unhealthy activity. We call upon all citizens, parents, youth serving organizations, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, and schools to support efforts that will reduce and prevent underage drinking in our community. Now therefore, I, Mike Streeter, President of the Village of North Fond du Lac, hereby proclaim the observance of month of April 2021 as Alcohol Awareness Month in the Village of North Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. What is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we accept resolution R-05-2021.
Here, a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion by Duffy and second by Horning to approve Resolution 5-2021 proclaiming April as Alcohol Awareness Month in the Village of North Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Any questions or comments on this item? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Communications, any communications? Unfinished business? Any new business? Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Price, second by Duffy to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thanks, everybody, for coming.